Welcome everyone to Plan9Crunch. My name is Pat Nielsen, otherwise known as Dean Patrick, and I am privileged to be here today to do a reading from my book, a page from the second novel called Terra's Sabbath in a Terra Drake series. There's a trilogy of these novels, and I was invited to come on and pleasure to be here to read this. This is a section here where the main character, protagonist Marion Paul, sees the villain for the very first time, Terra Drake. And I'd like to read a passage from that and can tell you where these books can be found after we're done. As she lowered herself farther down from the funneled light, she spread her arms from her side just a foot or so, palms out as if to welcome and protect the abhorrence below in a revolting display of power over many humans, miniature humans, who were then looking up to her in worship. She stopped herself perhaps 4 feet from the ground and hovered above them, giving them a full display of her mockery for Christ. Far more disturbing and raw, she had crucifixion markings on both hands, her feet, and a slash just below her breast. Marion felt faint, as if he was going into shock. He forced himself to look at her face and eyes as she looked down upon the miniature beasts. Terra turned her head toward Marion and lowered her chin as the tip of her black cowboy hat felt and just a tad above her glowing lavender eyes. When she spoke, her voice came through the speaker system of the octagon. "Now that you know what you're up against, it's time for you to leave this maze as I tend to my flock." The wounds from her hands and feet and side then closed up as if by Hollywood movie magic as she lowered herself completely to the ground. Every mini-human creature was on its hands and knees, faces and heads turned down as if commanded to no longer look upon Terra's perfect beauty that contrasted with the venom that Marion wanted to slap himself free from. It was overwhelming him. He was a brilliant detective, one who always knew that when he was outmatched in any way, it was best to back off, to come up with a different strategy, reassess everything. It hadn't happened often in his career, but such a strategy always ended up giving him a final edge. There, in that octagon, facing Terra Drake and her flock of freaks, he felt more outmatched than he'd ever known in his life. I want to thank Plan9Crunch for having me. Again, this is from Terra's Sabbath, the second novel in a trilogy about the villain Terra Drake. And that's a wrap.